Good everyone. I hope you guys have an amazing day. So I'm going to do a very tiny lecture today about building your business case and roadmap, and this is very important in my opinion. Even if you're not a Salesforce consultant, right? And if you wanted to, do your own business, you wanted to, grow your business, it's obviously important that you need to have a business case and a roadmap, right? So until this time, right, we spoke about how you can, come up with how you can build an idea and have a brainstorming session and have a pitch, right? You just go to, um, make your pitch to an investor to convince them, right? But that's great. But one thing I just wanted to emphasize that, right? It's okay to pitch your ideas. You have certain vision for your business and certain vision how you want to take this product forward, right? But for that case, it's very important for you to build a business case and the roadmap. So what I'm saying is that, so let's take an example, right? You wanted to build an app, okay? Like I gave an example, you wanted to build an app where someone can take a picture of a food and can say, okay, if it's a carbonara, or if it's a spaghetti bolognese, or um, if it's a lasagna, or it's tortellini or whatever, right? Um, so now the first phase, what we wanted to do was that we wanted to build a prototype, right? The prototype should involve taking a picture of a carbonara and say, hey, this is a carbonara pasta, or it's a pomodoro pasta, whatever. Let's stick to carbonara, right? The simple one. So if that's the case, right, we're building as a prototype, and if that's what you're going to pitch to investor, which is great, but you need to have a business case in mind, right? You can say, okay, this is what we're trying to do, and this is the target we're going to hit, right? This is the customer we're going to target. These are going to our beta testers, right? I mean, obviously, customers will willing to try out, and you're going to give them, a free access to your app, and to get their feedback. And also, you need to build a roadmap, right? What will happen, like, say, first 3 months, we're going to build this feature. And once that go live, we're going to build, let's say, we're going to add more foods to it, like lasagna, spaghetti, any kind of spaghetti. And then maybe, so that's a 6 month plan to, recognize any kind of pasta or any kind of lasagna or any kind of tortellini, right? So, and also include the pizza as well, right? Different kinds of pizzas, right? If it's a ham and cheese or Hawaiian or or veggies based or whatever, right? So you can say, all right, 6 months, this is our plan. Once we once we get enough feedback from a customer. So, and this is the cost to build it, right? Because obviously it's very important to put the cost, right? Because you're in the business to make money, unless it's a charity, which is a different case, which is a different conversation altogether. But if you're in a business to make money, right, you better consider cost and how much will be the return of investment for building it. Obviously, if you're building stuff, right, invested, let's say, $100,000 to build this functionality, and your return of investment would be like, say, 80K. So that's a 20,000 loss, right? Unless you know that you can make up in the future, right? So you need to factor all those considerations. I do appreciate the fact it's not very easy to predict in the beginning, right? If you're really going to make that money or you're going to grow, right? But it's always good to put those in a um, uh, in your presentation or whichever format you follow, right? And also which audience we're going to target. Are you going to target big restaurants, or are you going to target people or food critics, or are you going to target a blogger who talk about food? So you need to factor that into consideration as well, right? And let's say and then your plan will be, what's going to be your 2 year plan? You can say, I wanted to introduce a Greek food, like I wanted to talk about souvlaki's, I want to talk about moussakas, and or you can talk about Turkish food, right? Dana kebabs or shish or whatever, right? Or if you wanted to put German as well, like schnitzels, or Vienna schnitzels, or frankfurters, or or whatever the sauerkraut with the frankfurters and kind of stuff, right? I mean, as you can see, right, I'm passionate about the food, but I'm just saying, right, you just need to factor that into consideration, how it's going to be a long-term vision will be like, and the cost that involved to build these products, right? And obviously, when you're talking about that, it's very important to factor strategic capabilities as well. How are you going to do that, right? That's very important. And how it's going to affect the productivity of the user going to use it, right? Obviously, building for bloggers, maybe can they would it be easy for people to say, or let me put this way, right? Let's say people from Asia, right, goes to Italy to eat the food. Maybe they haven't eaten the food before, right? And let's say old school people, right, from Asia, travel with the kids, or never been outside the country. Let's say someone from which country we take from Asia. Um, let's take Philippines, right? Beautiful country, nice people, amazing people, right? Let's take a Filipino person from who never traveled outside Philippines, decides to go to Italy with the grown up kids, and they happen to go to Italian restaurant, and the person has never seen this that carbonara pasta before, so he took an app and said, oh, carbonara, and even translated it in his own language. How cool is that, right? So that's a kind of productivity booster, right? So, if you mention that kind of things, right, it is a kind of a business case, and it's going to generate a cost of, and maybe you say, okay, we're going to charge $1 for an app to download for an app store. That's how the revenue generation might happen. And also, you're going to have to talk about the scalability architecture, because obviously, if a million user going to use your product, you need to factor the scalability into consideration. It shouldn't be the case that your app started to, jitter, because if you have an API interaction, let's say with an external service, right, or an API, if your app uses an API, right, you need to factor concurrency and all of the kind of stuff into place. And how you're going to store user information, that also important. And the privacy law, if you're dealing with a European Union customer, you need to worry about GDPR stuff as well. So a lot of things you need to factor that when you actually, picture this. And your roadmap should focus that, right? Which customers you want to target, and the revenue generation, right? And ease of use, productivity upgrade for the customers who are going to use it, right? And yeah, and there are the trailhead, actually gives you pretty good scenarios, right? It talks about executive challenge or business case response. So this vision is overwhelming, right? And then the business case response prove that you can deliver impact on day one. Obviously, they're interested to know the day one impact, which is very important. The proposal is too expensive. Demonstrate the large market opportunity, right? Yeah, and then need to decide on proposals or different things, right? I understand if it's a bit mouthful if I mentioned all this stuff at the time, but just stay with me. It's pretty simple, right? So the takeaway from this episode is, right, if you are coming up with an idea, you need to have a business case and the roadmap, right? That will ensure the success of your product. And if you go to an investor, it's very important that, I remember my case. I tell you my example, right? In 2000, this case, I really don't talk about it. It's very painful for me because it involved a loss of somebody I really cared since I was a kid. It was my best mate who I lost. But beside that, just let me take you to 2018. So my mate and I, we went to LA for funding. Right, we were building on this product called a brain mapping simulation. So, and we were using nanotech. My mate, he was a nanotech guy, right? So we were building a nanotech, right? So, and I was doing mostly the AI side of things, right? So we built a prototype. So what Elon Musk is doing, right? Neuralink. So I would say a cut down version of it, right? I mean, built something. We were able to decipher some kind of brain information, could code it, so that kind of stuff, right? Went to LA and we went to this investor. We spoke to three investors, and the first pitch was a disaster, right? I mean, he asked me, "Do you guys have any business case and roadmap?" Right? And we're like, "Ooh, that's a good question. We don't." Right? And he liked everything, and he gave me very good advice, right? And to my mate as well, right? And so the advice what he gave was, right, your product looks great, but you need to come up with your business case and a roadmap. Because without a roadmap, investors will not be willing to invest because they are here to make money, and obviously want to help you. But come back to us maybe in a year time with the proper roadmap. So that didn't work out. So we went to second one, didn't work out. Third one, we actually got the funding because we built some extra stuff to it. And so yeah, I mean, it taught us a lot of things, and that also, yeah, I mean, and I came back to New Zealand. My stayed there, and then unfortunately, a week later, I got a news that he had an accident. He passed away. I mean, it was, I normally don't talk about it, but this is left a deepest void in my life ever since. But someone grew up together, who was there for me, stood up for me in schools when I got bullied. Always been there for me like a brother. But yeah. Anyways, sorry about that. I digress. So what I was trying to say is that it's important that you consider the business case and roadmap um, when you are actually wanting to pitch to a customer or investor. Sorry, not the customer. So yeah, I mean, I get it, right? If you're feeling overwhelmed, like why this guy only talking about theory? Well, this course involves a lot of theory, right? So yeah. So that being said, I hope you guys have an amazing Saturday. Adios.